good from Florida A&M, getting set to battle not only on the field but off it with the Hornets of Delaware State at Ford Field next. ESPNU's college football coming to you from Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. It's the Ford Detroit Football Classic. Florida A&M and Delaware State as they open not only the regular season, but the MEAC conference schedule as well. The preseason coaches poll has these two clubs tied for third best behind Hampton and South Carolina State. And welcome inside Ford Field, Beth Mullins along with Eddie Robinson Jr. And Eddie, picked to finish tied for third place in the conference by the coaches in the preseason. So already a chance today to separate themselves from the pack as they try and get on top of the league.
I think these teams are both evenly matched, and they're both trying to get into the upper echelon of the conference. Florida A&M with Reuben Carter, they won 35 conference championships in their title. Al Levon and Delaware State coming off a 7-4 record last year. They're a team who can also compete for the conference title.
Job number one for both these clubs, get the ball into the hands of an electrifying wide receiver. We'll start out with Shahir McBride at Delaware State.
I really like Shahir McBride. He was a guy who's all-conference wide receiver in 2005. Second in conference in receiving yards. His coach, Al Levon, compares him with the work ethic of a Jerry Rice, tall, rangy kid who can out-jump defenders. Also was a high school running back, so he excels in run after catch.
And then when we talk about Florida A&M, Roosevelt Kaiser is one of the top all-purpose men in all of Division I AA.
And Roosevelt Kaiser is Mr. Excitement for FAMU. He does a lot with the ball. He's not just a wide receiver. He was all-conference last year in 2005. He was also first in punt returns and third in kickoff returns. Very dangerous with the ball. He's a person that Delaware State has to be aware of at all times.
And they could have very big days this twosome because both defenses have a lot of starters to replace from a year ago. Florida A&M and Delaware State coming up. ESPNU College Football is brought to you by DirecTV. There's good TV, there's better TV, and then there's Direct TV. Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, as we get set for the opening kickoff of the Ford Detroit Football Classic. Delaware State and Florida A&M opening up their season and opening up MEAC play as well. Delaware State breaking through last year. As you see, A&M has had the big advantage, including 10 in a row before the Hornets won in Tallahassee last year, 21-17. Delaware State winning the coin toss, and they have elected to kick off. They are in the red jerseys. Florida A&M in the white jerseys with the orange helmets. Beth Mullins along with Eddie Robinson Jr. here in Michigan. And Peter Gartner, the senior from Berlin, will handle the kickoff duties. Roosevelt Kaiser is the deep man and one of the most dangerous return men in college football. Gartner will give Kaiser an opportunity from inside his own 10-yard line. Looking for some blockers and is stopped shy of the 20. And that's where the Rattlers will take over. First and 10, 11 yards on the return from Roosevelt Kaiser. And leading the way, number 2, the quarterback, Albert Chester II, the 5'11 junior from Jacksonville, Florida. In his second season as the starter, started out slow last year, got thrown into the fire a bit, Eddie, and then came on strong and finished very well, winning the Walt Disney World Florida Classic MVP honors in their last regular season game against Bethune-Cookman down in Orlando. And the handoff goes to Joe Lawson, the new starter at tailback for FAMU. He will be running behind a big bunch up front. They average 6'5", 325. They'll have the size advantage, led by seniors Dan Parrish and Leonard Black over on that left side. And Joe Lawson making his debut at tailback. That last carry a second ago, the first of his collegiate career, and he will follow behind Michael Benson, a true freshman, getting the start today at the fullback spot. Nice cutback move by Lawson, gets out to the 25-yard line. Third down coming up. The defensive line, Stephon Hopkins is back home in Detroit. This is an undersized bunch, so we're expecting a lot of different looks, a lot of different fronts from Delaware State. The linebacking core will follow the lead of Russell Reeves, guy his teammates call the hitman. And then safety Jamel Trot loves playing against FAMU. He's got 4 interceptions in their 2 meetings. 1 returned for a touchdown 2 years ago, and another for an interception that set up the game winner last season. And the pass completed to Kaiser, but he is shy of the first down. An outstanding job by the defense to swarm all over Roosevelt.
And Kaiser is the guy that they're going to go to early. Here he just runs an option route, running away from leverage. Good throw and catch, a little short of the first down. And Pope, you see there, just makes an excellent tackle, not allowing him to get any yards after the catch. Remember, he's a punt returner, so he knows how to make guys miss and get first downs. Wesley
Taylor, a 2005 All-American, on to punt for FAMU. Brandon Hudson is back deep at his own 25. Hudson will let it bounce, and it takes a good Rattler bounce, and then Hudson comes up, tried to scoop it up, and bats it out of bounds. So Delaware State will get its first possession, starting out at its own 30-yard line. And they will have a number 2 as well, starting in the quarterback position. Vashawn Winton, a sophomore from Chicago.
There's a penalty on the play. I think it's a holding call against Delaware State.
Holding on the return team, number 85, 10 yards from the end of the kick, first down.
So they will tack on some yardage, the referee, Daryl Davis, today. But Vashawn Winton, last year's 2005 MEAC Rookie of the Year. Delaware State really didn't expect him to be the starter last year, but he had to take the job, and he did it very well at times for this club.
And coaches really rave over this guy. They say he's a very smart player. He knows how to make checks, and he said he was a year ahead of himself last year. So this year they're expecting a lot of big things out of him. A guy who's a leader on and off the field, and he should have a real good year in 2006.
He made his first start ever last year in the season opener against FAMU, and now back the second time around. And the handoff, the first guy through was the fullback Adam Shrewsbury. Take a look at the offensive line for Delaware State. 5th-year senior Travis Pierce leads this group. Jeremy Breath is making his 23rd consecutive start at that right guard position. Coach Al Levan says Emmanuel Mark is the most improved player on the team, and Mark will take over for a rushing attack that was last in the MEAC in 2005. And they are looking to run the ball much more effectively this season. Out of the shotgun. Winton's pass incomplete, looking for Shahir McBride. The Rattler defense, Tyrone McGriff, an All-America candidate with exceptional skills. He bulked up, added 15 pounds so he can be even more menacing this fall. Vernon Wilder is the man in the middle. The coach is expecting big things from him this year in that middle linebacker spot. And Ernest Williams will be responsible for keeping the secondary strong. They will be challenged today as both cornerbacks, Johnson and Creary, are seeing their first collegiate action.
A lot of young guys on the defense for FAMU, some of them starting for the first time.
3rd down and 6 from the 24. Winton steps up, drops it off to Mark, coming out of the backfield, tried to bust forward. And he will come up a couple of yards short. That was Donovan Johnson, made the tackle, lost his shoe, but got just enough of Mark to slow him down, and then the rest of his buddies came and finished the job.
Excellent tackle by Donovan Johnson on that play. And the definition of an open field tackle is just to get him down. It's always hard when you have guys in the open field like that to try to stop him, especially when it's a 3rd and 8 and he almost got that first down.
Roosevelt Kaiser back deep, 5th in the nation last year in punt return yardage. Josh Bright back to boot this one away. He's replacing the All-American Eric Contos from a year ago. pick it up off the turf. Does manage to get it away, takes a nice hop, and out of bounds inside the 30-yard line. 39 yards on the punt from Josh Bright. Scoreless early, just underway at the Ford Detroit Football Classic. Florida A&M with the football, getting ready for their second drive of the day for Coach Reuben Carter in his second season on the FAMU sideline.
And Coach Carter is real familiar to most football fans. He was a 12-year veteran of the Denver Broncos, was the prototypical nose guard, named that by Sports Illustrated. 18 years of college and pro coaching experience. Played in 2 Super Bowls under Dan Reeves. Very experienced football coach and player.
Former college All-American at Miami. Lawson on the carry. Ball popped loose at the end of the play. Scooped up by Delaware State and into the end zone. Touchdown for the Hornets. And it looked like it was Stephon Hopkins, the Detroit native from Renaissance High School.
And the referees are starting to huddle the fan. And there you go, touchdown. The referees have just given a signal. I think they were trying to determine if his knee was down before he fumbled.
So Lawson, in his first career start, coughed it up. Hopkins scooped it up and took it in for the touchdown. And now the extra point attempt from Peter Gartner. That is good. There was a bit of a delay initially, and then the officials signaled touchdown. Then they all got together and quickly determined that it was indeed a score.
You can see he's going off right tackle, and it's just a big pile of people, and so you can't really see what's happening. He's just in the right place at the right time. Local kid out of Detroit Renaissance High School.
$18 yards.
Yeah, I think it was a fumble. You can tell Kenwan Miller was underneath the pads of the running back under Joe Lawson, and I think the ball did indeed come out. Referees did a good job of not blowing the play dead, giving it a chance to continue. There's no instant replay in this game. So Hopkins, the beneficiary of a good play.
On the cake, he got to bowl right over the quarterback, Albert Chester, to take it into the end zone.
Can't hit him.
Touchdown. Started out his collegiate career at Minnesota and then transferred to Delaware State. And boy, what an opportunity here to play at home in an NFL for the Bents. And now Kaiser looking to get it right back across the 35 and out to the 40-yard line. 32 yards on the return. Tackle made by Lamont Kennard.
And that's exactly what we expect. He can make people miss. They say he's quicker than fast, but he still has the speed to take it the distance. And every time he touches the ball, he's
back out there at tailback. Behind the reverse, give it to Lawson. Well read by that swarming defense of Delaware State under the direction of defensive coordinator Andre Kramer. They were among the top-rated defenses in.
Still 4-3, hard to.
We're coming up on Thursday night on ESPNU at 8.
You see that.
And the Hornet defense for Chester just.
Remember, Delaware State
start for this Delaware State defense. Both.
OnlyHitMusic.com.
Delaware State with the lead. 5 turnovers.
That's a good play call. Just running the speed option, something nice and simple. Want to get him set. You see why I call him Mr. Excitement. I mean, he lines up all over. This guy also real quick can make people miss. Very exciting player in the league. Because
still first down.
Linebackers drops back. Step by the poise of the Rattlers.
See, no one's open deep. They have coverage down the field. He just dumps it off to Willie Hayward.
Rouse, along with Russell Reeves. Than we expect. He'd be good in these situations right here for FAMU. Tacklers for.
Then one guy to replace that type of player. Of course, Lawson is the speedy guy. Edwards here, you can see, is the power guy, which inside the red zone, you need a guy who's just going to go straight downhill and try to get it into.
Takes it all the way to the goal line.
Touchdown.
7 plays going.
This guy doesn't have a lot of moves. He's a big guy, 5'11", 212 pounds. He's the power running back, and that's what you need when you get inside that 20.
On the kick. Highest advantage.
Kind of factor that in as this game gets into the third, and you're 285. My Big Mac.
The penalty is refused.
And Florida the field, and Anthony Edwards. Back here at Ford Field for the Ford Detroit Football Classic. Anthony Edwards, 5-yard run to put Florida A&M on the board. They're down a touchdown with 6:47 to go.
Now we have a ball game. They settled down extremely well after their offense gave up 2 touchdowns, one on the fumble return, one on the interception return. To come back with a 64-yard touchdown drive was very impressive by Albert Chester and the Florida A&M Rattlers.
7 plays to cover those 64 yards. And the kickoff out of bounds, did not reach the end zone. And that'll bring out the penalty flag. All kinds of action here in the first quarter. This will only be the second time we've seen the Delaware State offense. It's their defense that put all the points up, and Vashawn Winton will lead his troops out, and they will have some
kicking team. By rule, the ball will be placed at the 35-yard line.
Good field position to start out here at their own 35 as a result of the penalty.
Now keep in mind, another rule change we had was going from the 2-inch tee to the 1-inch tee, which may have affected that kick just a little bit. And that's a thing where the kick shouldn't go as far, so you should get more returns, get more excitement on the field, and let the returner score more points. That's what everybody likes to see, a lot of points scored.
So Winton will work out of the gun. 3 receivers. And the handoff to Emmanuel Mark gets around the left edge. He's got a first down. And tack on a couple more out to the 48-yard line. 13 yards on the pickup from Emmanuel Mark.
Now, Coach Al Levine was a running back coach all of his years in the NFL, but they've never had a really big running game here yet. They were last in the MEAC last year, and he said he just wants the running game to be effective. So to have a 13-yard run early in the ball game is very promising. They just like to think and dunk to the running backs and wide receivers and use that effectively as a running game.
1st and 10, Winton will keep it. Good pursuit from FAMU. Barely got back to the line of scrimmage. Vernon Wilder, Michael Creary coming up to make the play. Well, you mentioned Al Levine and his years, 18 of them in the NFL. Some of the guys that he's had a hand in tutoring as an assistant coach.
And he had a couple of Super Bowl championships, of course, with the 49ers and Priest Holmes. You can see Tony Dorsett. I think he pretty much was blessed with always having a good crew of running backs. Ernest Byners, it's more on that list than that. And when you look through his coaching pedigree, it's like, did you pick the teams to go to that had the best running backs? Of course, that makes the coaching job a lot easier.
That's a pretty good group right there. Actually lost a yard on the play, and now Vashawn Winton will have to use the timeout. And there is our first look at the new timing issue as a result of the rule changes, because Winton looked up at the play clock and it was down to 1 second.
And a lot of the coaches, the college coaches, are complaining because it's going to take around 10 to 15 plays off for each team with the new timing rule changes, which is good and bad because you would like to have more plays naturally to compete and make more things happen. But it's also good for the players because you kind of move things along just a little bit better. And you can see the first one, the ball starts on the ready for play whistle as a change of possessions. But the coaches really have to manage the game, because once your defense stops them and you're getting the ball back on offense, you no longer have the clock is going to stop. It's going to put it in play and start moving. So you really have to get your offense on the field and get ready to go. The other one isn't that big of a rule. It starts on the kickoff, and that's the thing where it just adds takes a couple seconds away from the football game and just moves the game along a little quicker. Games are getting into that 3 hour and 15 minutes range, and just wanted to kind of get it back and get the players on and off the field, and hopefully cut down on injuries also.
2nd and 11 from their own 46. Winton, the sophomore out of Chicago. Big opening for Emmanuel Mark right up the middle inside the 40-yard line. Jason Beach with the tackle. 18 yards on the carry by Mark, followed Nick Richmond and Travis Pierce right up the middle.
You can hear this is just a delayed draw. Good patience by Emmanuel Mark, letting the lineman get in front of him and just going downhill. And this is a team, like we said earlier, they're not possessed with a great running game, so anything he does is a positive. Coach Al Levine said he was his most improved player from last year, really taking charge of his career, getting into the weight room and improving himself on and off the field.
Busted play, and Winton smothered in the backfield. Turned around looking for somebody to give it to, and nobody was there except for Tyrone McGriff, and that wasn't the guy that he wanted to see bearing down on him. The big junior from Tallahassee, one of the top defenders in the MEAC.
And this is just too easy for Tyrone McGriff. When nobody blocks him, you can see he just comes off the edge. And speedy guy, a lot of sacks last year, very effective player, 6.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, preseason All-American. This is a guy who's going to be a factor today.
Loss of 8 on the play. Winton feeling some heat again, gets the pass off, and it is caught by J.J. Bettle. Nope, they're going to rule it incomplete now at the 40-yard line. Bettle, one of those high-profile Division I transfers. He played 8 games at Syracuse before transferring in. And you see there, couldn't hang on.
Had it initially, but then once they put the hit on him, he couldn't hold it on past the point of contact. Michael McMillan was there providing coverage.
He is one of 7 Division I transfers. They've also got 18 junior college transfers on the Delaware State roster. Here are the Hornets. 3rd down. Tried to set up the screen there in the middle of the field, and they will be well short. Punting unit will come on.
In some kind of way, he completed that pass amongst all those big bodies and stuff inside to Emmanuel Mark.
Special thanks to Clear Channel Radio, FM 98.
Very dangerous play. He was lucky he got away with that one.
Started out looking good on the drive. Emmanuel Mark impressive on a couple of runs, but the FAMU defense shuts them down. And now Josh Bright will kick it away. Kaiser back at his own 10-yard line. They have kicked to him thus far. Will they continue with the strategy to give one of the top return guys in the country a chance? High one from Bright. Bounces on the goal line and then in for the touchback.
Florida A&M Rattlers to receive.
Some big schools on the list of Division I transfers that have come in to Delaware State, including J.J. Bettle, who we just saw a moment ago from Syracuse. Hopkins had the fumble recovery return for a touchdown earlier, and Kelvin Grant was the guy that everybody was looking at out of Clemson. He's battled through an injury so far in camp. They hope to have him back next week. FAMU will be taking on, or Delaware State will be taking on St. Francis. Now Chester back at quarterback, the handoff, and the elusive run from Joe Lawson, trying to redeem himself for the early fumble. 16 yards on the pickup from the junior out of Orange Park, Florida.
Joe Lawson doing a good job of having yards after contact. You can see the first guy from Delaware State has a chance to bring him down, and he makes a miss. Joe Lawson is a speedy guy, only 5'9", 165 pounds, and that was Miller who couldn't bring him down for Delaware State. And he's a good combination with Edwards and Lawson, the speed guy and the power guy. Like I said, those two guys can really have an effective running game today.
Flag down on the delay to Lawson. Picked up a couple. And it will go against early Delaware State. They are taking the bulk of the penalties thus far. It was 12 penalties a year ago in this matchup that really hurt FAMU. And now it's Al Levan's club that's a bit more undisciplined thus far. 2:29 to go here in the first. As Levan looks on. He's back in Michigan as well. He was a former assistant coach at Eastern Michigan. This is his first head coaching job, and what a turnaround it has been. He inherited a team that was 1-10 the year before he got there. 7 wins a year ago. Chester looking upfield but couldn't find anybody. Corralled at about the 41-yard line. That was Russell Reeves and company. The linebackers with some good pursuit.
post-game concert with main speaker Frankie Beverly with special guest
Chester, that was just a play where they sent Kaiser in motion once again, using him as a decoy. So he's one of those players you have to pay attention to him. Even when he doesn't touch the ball, he'll make other players better around him because defenses have to know where he's at all times.
4 wideouts. They try the receiver screen to Hayward. He's got enough for the first down, spinning out to about the 47. Kenwan Miller in on the stop defensively, along with Ron Spinner.
Good play here, just a little quick hitch with almost like a bubble screen. One receiver blocks, the other one catches it. You get a one-on-one matchup with the cornerbacks, and you get positive yards in the first down. Well executed by FAMU.
Kaiser goes to the top of the screen. Lawson the lone setback. The give to Joe. He's got a couple of blockers in front of him and has another first down for Florida A&M as they get inside Hornet territory and down to the 40-yard line. A 12-yard scamper. And that'll come back because we've got another penalty flag, and this time it goes against FAMU.
And the referees will be busy today, apparently.
Holding, offense number 70. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Second down.
We've seen a lot of laundry already on the carpet here at Ford Field. 1:06 to go in the first half as Reuben Carter looks on.
But in defense of the players, they don't have the 4 preseason games like the NFL. You don't have a dry run. All you have is intra-squad scrimmages. So whenever you have that first game, it's always going to be tough to get the guys back into the mode that there's referees on the field to throw flags and that type of thing. So it's something that's expected in the first game. You just want to contain it.
Another pass out into the flat to Derek Williams. Gets back outside the 45-yard line. And that's something really, in fairness to Reuben Carter and his coaching staff for FAMU. This is their first full season where they had an entire spring and an entire summer to get things together. He took over the job last year in July. So by the time their season opener rolled around, they'd only been on the job for 6 weeks. And struggled early in the campaign. But I think we got a glimpse of what this team is going to be really like in the second half of the season, when they won 4 of their last 5 games and have shown the ability here in the first quarter to bounce back from adversity after they fell behind 14-0 on 2 defensive touchdowns for the Hornets. Chester to Kaiser across midfield, knocked out of bounds at the 45-yard line. Jeremy Bianduti on the tackle.
When we look at Joe Lawson and Anthony Edwards, these guys who didn't have any stats from last year. Joe Lawson 0 rushes with only 2 receptions. Edwards only 4 rushes. And they had to replace Pompey. Pompey was a guy who didn't come out the game, a 1,000-yard rusher last year. And here Joe Lawson already has 6 rushes for 37 yards. Edwards 4 for 17 and a touchdown. So both of these guys are starting off good today. Lawson had the 1 fumble early in the game, but he's really come back and settled down.
5 receivers now for Chester to choose from. And he's got the first down, finding Roosevelt Kaiser in double coverage inside the 40-yard line. Precise on that pass from Albert Chester.
And even though they have 5 receivers on the field, I would still cover Roosevelt Kaiser first because he's the guy that they want to get the ball to. You can see he draws a lot of attention, but not until after he gets the first down.
Chester making some good decisions. He got knocked out of last year's game early. Ended up missing 3 games with a shoulder injury and then finished strong. Carry right up the middle for a couple of yards. And that will go to Lawson. Host of tacklers were there, including Kelly Rouse.
And FAMU, they're running players on and off the field. Well, Delaware State is running players on and off, want to keep that defense fresh.
First quarter is in the books here at Ford Field, the Ford Detroit Football Classic. Plenty of fireworks between the Rattlers and the Hornets. Delaware State with 2 defensive touchdowns, a fumble recovery, a pick for a score. They're up by a touchdown. Delaware State leading Florida A&M 14-7 as we start the second quarter here at Ford Field in the Ford Detroit Football Classic. And a big size advantage for that FAMU offensive line, and we've seen it now on the last two possessions taking over.
And you can see it's pretty clear, 325 pounds compared to 270 pounds. Coach Kramer, the defensive coordinator for Delaware State, said he's going to combine that by having fast guys and they're going to move and this and that. But sooner or later you have to sit there and just knuckle up and play football. So it's going to be tough to see if they can go. This is a 10-play drive. It's hard on the defense that's undersized.
The pass to Kaiser. Nice shake and bake move. Gets by one guy and jumps forward to about the 32-yard line. Held up by Tyrone Kelly, another Detroit native. He and Hopkins teammates at Renaissance High School, where Kelly was a terrific running back, scored 5 touchdowns in one game and rushed for over 230 yards before moving on to Central Michigan and then transferring here to DSU. 5 wideouts again in this package for Albert Chester.
Better watch Kaiser.
Incomplete, intended for, guess who?
Kaiser.
Looking to hook up with the senior from Fort Lauderdale.
They're at the 34-yard line. It's right in that range where do you kick a field goal or do you punt? Of course, if you punt it in the end zone, you're only gaining 14 net yards. Some coaches in this situation just like to go for it on 4th down. But with an All-American kicker, you try a field goal.
Wesley Taylor on this 14th play of the drive. It will be spotted right around the 41, so a 51-yard kick here from Taylor. That would be a new career high, and it is well shy. So the Delaware State defense bends, but they do not break. And they will get the Hornet offense back out there.
And it seems like Delaware State hasn't run a lot of plays today just because their defense has been scoring so much, and FAMU, of course, gets the ball back after they score. So this is only their 3rd time touching the ball. 3 and out on 1 possession and ran a couple plays, around 8 plays, and now there's their 3rd time out.
There's the receiver comparison. Vashawn Winton has yet to hook up with Shahir McBride, Delaware State's leading receiver the last 2 years. He needs just 4 catches to tie John Taylor, the former San Francisco 49er great, on the all-time career receptions list at number 5 on that list, but they have not been able to find him yet. They're looking his way right here, and they've got the hookup out across midfield and into FAMU territory as Vashawn Winton rifles one to Shahir McBride. 1st down, Delaware State, 21 yards on the pickup.
I think you're locked into the coach's headsets to know that that play was coming. But you can tell this is their 3rd possession and that your main guy has not caught a pass yet. You want to get him isolated. Just a nice skinny post play. The deep safety is too far away. He beats the corner to the inside, and you can see he's a former running back in high school. He has some big run after catch ability also.
And off to the fullback Shrewsbury. Got a couple, had to bounce off a couple of defenders before he was taken down. Michael McMillan, the first guy there. There is the all-time reception list. And John Taylor is now just 3 away. Albert Horsey has the most catches and the most receiving yards in Delaware State history.
And I'll go out on a limb to say he'll get to 160 career yards before he leaves Delaware State. He's only a junior this year. He'll be back next year. In 2 years, I can say if he stays healthy, he'll smash that record pretty easily.
2nd and 9 now. Vashawn Winton bounces off of Octavius Everett. The intended receiver hit him in the pads as he started to look upfield before he had it in his hands. Everett is one of the newcomers, the sophomore transfer from the Georgia Military College.
Third and 9 situation here. A lot of coaches on defense, FAMU, like to put pressure on the quarterback. even if you don't get the sack, you force him to throw it before he wants to, where the receivers can't go past the first down mark.
McBride to the top of the screen. Winton looks that way, now has to run with it. Gets the pass off, finds McBride, and has enough for the first down at the 37-yard line. Shahir McBride did a nice job to circle back around to help out his quarterback.
And I like Winton on this play. You can see you have pressure coming from the backside. A man is unblocked. And most quarterbacks, what they would do is try to run and just don't look down the field. But what he does is he keeps his head up. He finds his #1 target, McBride, and is still able to get the first down.
Needed 8, they got 12. 1st and 10, Delaware State from the 37-yard line. Emmanuel Mark gets it inside the 35. Pickup of a couple on the play. Chris Wooten on the stop. Well, log on to ESPNU.com. This brand new online service will be a gateway to all college sports content from ESPN, combining the latest news with an expanded collection of new exclusive material. We've got scores, columns, video and audio highlights, podcasts, live game streaming, and much more. Log on to ESPNU.com today. 14-7 our score. Delaware State in red, leading Florida A&M in the white jerseys with the orange helmets. Scoring twice on the defensive side of the ball. And now McBride, with his 3rd catch of this drive, is close to another first down. Ernest Williams made the tackle defensively.
Can you say getting your main guy involved in the offense? This time he lined up in the backfield, motioned out to the wide receiver position, only the one to run the wide receiver screen. In high school, he had 1,000 yards as a rusher. He's a run-after-catch guy. He can make people miss. Big, strong guy. The coach compares his work ethic to that of a Jerry Rice. And he's constantly just out there, always trying to get better, trying to improve. Big kid. Very impressive wide receiver. And he's going to have a big day and a big year. You can see when he wasn't catching the ball early, they ran plays designed to get him involved.
Winton changing up the play, will hand it off to Mark. Tried to spin away from the defenders, but could not elude Tyrone McGriff, the All-America candidate whose late father starred in a FAMU uniform. Tyrone, a 3-time All-American who actually played with the quarterback Albert Chester's dad on the national championship team, as well as MEAC and Black College national championship teams in the late 70s.
You find a lot of players from FAMU whose dads or grandparents or somebody, they have a connection to the university. Very rich tradition throughout the state of Florida for FAMU, and they can recruit guys that you may not ordinarily get because they have family ties to the college.
Got a
Number 40
false start.
of the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 4th down.
Goes against the Hornets, and what was a 4th and inches will now be 4th and 6. And Alavan waves the offense off the field. Hurt by the penalty right there, as they looked like they were going to go for it. And they will bring out the kicker. Actually, that is Josh Bright, the punter, who is on to apparently attempt the field goal, and now will go ahead and pooch punt it. So they snuck the punter out there, put him in field goal position. And they will put FAMU back at their 11-yard line to start out this drive. Touchdown lead for Alavan and Delaware State. 10:03 to go here in the first half. ESPNU college football at the Ford Detroit Football Classic. 10:03 to go in the first half, and Delaware State leading Florida A&M in a 43-second span in the first quarter. Stephon Hopkins returned a fumble 18 yards for a touchdown. And then Russell Reeves intercepted a pass and ran it back 40 yards for another score, as Delaware State jumped on top early. Florida A&M answering with an impressive 7-play, 64-yard drive, capped off by the Anthony Edwards 5-yard run to make this a 1-touchdown game. And now the Florida A&M Rattlers with the football. They'll start out at their own 11-yard line. Tyrone Kelly and Russell Reeves making the tackle on Joe Lawson.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's halftime showcase will feature Fifth Third Bank's
Russell Reeves is the guy they call the hitman. He's already has an interception return for a touchdown today. Last year he had a back problem, was a little overweight. This year Coach Kramer said he's lost some weight, back to the same speed and quickness, and said he looks like the hitman again.
This is the place to be the hitman here in Detroit. Thomas Hearn's old stomping grounds and the Kronk Boxing Gymnasium. And no lack of confidence from Russell Reeves, and I think the rest of his teammates really fed off of that at media day. He made the bold prediction that this Hornet team would finish the year at least 10-1, which would be another 3-game improvement over last year's 7 wins. And that would be quite a leap forward for this program.
Yeah, to go from 1 win to 4 to 7, then to 10. I mean, you're only playing 11 games, so that's a pretty good year.
We had another penalty there against FAMU. Will push them back inside the 10-yard line at their own 7.
The Delaware State, their last conference championship was in 1991, so Coach Al Levine is doing an excellent job just in his short tenure here, only in his 3rd year.
To end the 15-year drought. Both these teams picked in the preseason coaches poll to finish tied for 3rd as Lawson gets another short pickup. The cream of the crop still remains Hampton, the 2-time back-to-back MEAC champions and the top-ranked team in the Black College football preseason poll. And then a South Carolina State team that has finished runner-up the last 2 years. That averaged 35 points per game. They've got a lot back. So does Hampton, including the offensive and defensive players of the year, Alonzo Coleman and Justin Durant, respectively. Rumbling up the middle is Anthony Edwards. He gets out to the 20-yard line, about a yard shy of the first down marker.
The thing that makes this game so compelling is, as you see, Anthony Edwards is the big physical guy just going downhill, running over people. Is that both of these teams are so evenly matched. And if you want to compete for the MEAC Conference Championship, knowing you have the South Carolina States, the Hamptons, the Bethune-Cookmans, you have to win this game. You can't come out of the gate stumbling and making a mistake in this opening game. So I think both of these teams have the talent to compete for the conference championship, but unfortunately it'll only be the person who wins this first game.
Edwards again. He's got the first down out across the 25-yard line. And both these teams, we should add, get both Hampton and South Carolina State at home this year on the schedule. As we see Edwards pick up the first down. Tyrone Kelly snipping at his ankles there to bring him down. This has been a pretty good 1-2 punch, the Lawson-Edwards combo at tailback.
I think going throughout the year is going to be very effective. You have two guys who have totally different running styles, speed and power. Always tough for a defender to try to change up to realize who's in the game. Is it the speed guy or the power guy?
Movement up front. Flag down before the snap.
Prior to the snap, false start. Number 78 of the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
Referee Daryl Davis is getting as much airtime as we are here in the first half. There you see the movement on the left side of the line.
Yeah, that's big 78. You hate to call out the offensive lineman when they make a mistake, but that's big Dan Parrish. He's a preseason all-MEAC guy. Injured a little bit last year. He's a senior this year and one of the leaders on this offensive line.
1st and 15 now, back to the 22. Quick route to Kaiser, who gets to the 24-yard line. Russell Reeves on the tackle, and Russell has been instrumental in the scoring for Delaware State here in the first half. More on him in a moment, but first it's Stephon Hopkins scooping up the fumble and scoring. And he rumbled over quarterback Albert Chester to do it, and then there's Reeves with the pick.
You know what I didn't notice about that? It was a one-hand pick. I mean, he just stuck his left hand out there and pulled that ball in with one hand. And that's a linebacker's dream, or any defender, to score on defense. That's always a lot of fun.
Those two scores coming within a 43-second span back in the first quarter. Chester looks for Kaiser, who had it and dropped the football out at the 35-yard line, and Roosevelt knows that was all on him.
Yeah, I think he just made the old mistake of trying to look upfield a little bit too easy. I mean, it was double coverage on the play. They had good coverage on the wide, on the rollout. Chester delivers a good pass, a good ball, hits him in the chest, and I think he was trying to make the first guy miss just a little bit too fast. But you won't see Kaiser drop too many passes like that.
Caught 5 touchdowns last year, threw a touchdown pass as well during the season for FAMU. And just as important as his skills with the football, the coaching staff say he has been a tremendous role model for a lot of the younger players and the newcomers to this lineup. Chester looks his way again and then tried to drop it off underneath, and nothing doing. Russell Reeves with the big blow.
And that's why we call him the hitman. I think he comes to practice with a bag full of Band-Aids to give him out when he's hurting people. You can see he's a big physical kid, and Delaware State has a lot of good defensive players, especially at the linebacker position. They just move him all around and do a lot of different things. But here, on 3rd and long, he just reacts and reads perfectly, finishes and knocks the defender, knocks the running back backwards, which is what you always like from a defensive standpoint.
Loss of 4 after Edwards made the catch. So now Taylor on to punt from inside his own 10. Had a little bit of trouble with it, does get it off. We've got a penalty flag down. And Delaware State trying to make some more noise. Looking for another flag of the face mask at the end of the play as well. On the return from Brandon Hudson.
Multiple flags on the play is always fun for the referee, as he has to talk with everyone on his crew and figure out exactly what happened. They're in a big conference now.
Delaware State can take their pick. Both of them going against the Rattlers. And Al Levan's team will have fantastic field position here when we talk to
number 7 of the offense. That penalty is declined. Personal foul, face mask, number 25 of the kicking team. 15 yards from the end of the run, first down.
When we talked to Al Levan yesterday, his priorities were to contain Kaiser, which they did pretty well. The next big thing he said was field position football, and they're going to get the ball to start out in FAMU territory. It's going to come right at the tail end of this Hudson return. Right there.
Great camera work.
1st and 10 Hornets from the Rattler 33-yard line when we come back to Ford Field. (14-7) Delaware State leading Florida A&M, and one of the new rule changes helping out Delaware State right here and keeping the game moving along, Eddie.
There was an illegal procedure on FAMU within the kicking game, but instead of making FAMU take a 5-yard penalty and re-kick, Delaware State was able to tack on the 5 yards after the run, and they also tacked on the 5-yard penalty from the face mask. So that's how Delaware State gets excellent field position at the 33-yard line.
That was Ernest Williams called for the face mask. Procedure fouls can now be tacked down to the return, one of the new NCAA rule changes. 1st and 10 from the 33 of FAMU here for Delaware State. Shahir McBride by himself at the top of the screen, and they'll run the other way with Emmanuel Mark into the secondary, inside the 10, diving for the corner, and he's in for the touchdown. The run matches his number, 33 yards for the score.
Emmanuel Mark, the junior college transfer from Hudson Valley. Coach Al Levan said that the light just suddenly came on from last spring to this fall. Called him the most improved player on the team, and you can see just as his strength and his power, staying in the weight room, knowing how, having the patience to run. It's almost like the inside handoff with a sweep. You have big number 6'8", the center, Nick Richmond, coming around. And that's just all effort and desire, wanting to get into the end zone and diving over the pylon.
After the punt return and the penalty, took them all of one play. 33 yards on the score from Emmanuel Mark. His first touchdown of the season. And the first for the offense after the defense put 14 points up in the first quarter.
And I have a sneaky feeling that this year Delaware State will not finish last in the MEAC in rushing, because, I mean, Emmanuel Mark has come out here and had some really good runs. And here you see a 33-yard touchdown. This is a guy that's fast and quick. I mean, he looks like he can be a productive tailback in this conference. 5'10", 205, but has excellent speed and knows how to make people miss. You combine that with the passing game that Bashawn Witten and Shahir McBride and those guys have. Delaware State looks like they can be a real offensive powerhouse, tough to stop.
Talking with Al Levan yesterday, as well as the offensive coordinator Eric Day, the first word out of their mouths when we asked about Emmanuel Mark, both of them said maturity.
And it takes time. I mean, this guy who went to junior college, then he transferred to Delaware State. You're in 2 new places. You know, that's a lot of transition for a player to have to deal with. But now once he's settled in, coming into his senior season, I think he's ready to be a real productive member of this Delaware State football team.
They said he's gotten stronger. He's gotten smarter about what he needs to do on the field. And both sides have a touchdown on the ground. Emmanuel Mark carrying the load, 33 yards for the score to make it 21-7. And now it's Kaiser time. Back deep.
Little razzle-dazzle by Delaware State where they faked the kick and reset. Now, last time they pooch kicked and Kaiser wasn't able to return the ball. Kaiser is pushing up a little bit. We'll see what the chess match says this time.
Peter Gartner. This one will be returnable for Kaiser from the 8. Finds some space on the cutback. Another penalty flag is down as Kaiser goes down at the 31-yard line. Tyrone Kelly, the junior from here in Detroit, hauls him down. And FAMU hurting themselves with the penalties on special teams. That's a couple in a row.
Holding 52 of the return team. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down.
Darius Nobles, a freshman.
And that's always tough. A tough penalty because it's from the spot of the foul. So even though he ran all the way out to the 30-yard line, the penalty occurred somewhere on the 21-yard line, so he backs him up all the way to the 10. Very tough field position for FAMU at this point. Can't see the penalty with everything that's going on, but with Kaiser, you can see, I don't think you have to hold anybody for him. If you just kind of get in the way a little bit, he has the ability to make people miss and to get in and out of cuts better than a lot of other return guys.
Reuben Carter looking a little frustrated with his troops. Some costly penalties here in the first half. The handoff to Edwards, bumps off an O-lineman and gets out to about the 11-yard line. Field position football, what Delaware State was talking about coming into the game, and they are winning that battle right now as FAMU has started their last 2 possessions inside their own 15-yard line.
And Levan, I mean, he has the recipe for beating FAMU if they indeed win. He said we have to contain Kaiser, kick well, have an effective running game. They've done all 3. He's checking them off one at a time, and field position was his 4th thing. So right now they're looking like a very polished team.
On 2nd and 8, the give to Edwards. Spinning out across the 15 to the 17-yard line. It'll bring up 3rd and a few. Thursday night, we've got high school football coming your way on ESPNU at 8 Eastern. It's the alma mater of Donovan McNabb and Simeon Rice, the Caravan of Mount Carmel, taking on high-powered Providence Catholic on the Old Spice High School Showcase Thursday night at 8 Eastern on ESPNU from Chicago. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. 21-7, FAMU trailing with the football right now. Out close to the 20, that's where they needed to get for the first down. Again, it's Edwards on the carry.
It's a lot of confidence in your running game when you have a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 situation. And you're not afraid to pound it up in there with your big running back, but look like they may be a little short.
Spotted on the 19, so they are indeed a yard shy. And here comes Wesley Taylor in the punting unit.
Brandon Hudson, only a freshman, had a couple good returns today, so we'll see if he can match Roosevelt Kaiser, the All-American return guy for FAMU.
End over end to Hudson, bringing it into Rattler territory. inside the 40. Slammed at the 39-yard line. More good field position for Delaware State. Under 3 minutes to go in the first half. And then it's the approaching Swarm and the marching 100 getting set to do their thing. Delaware State with the lead, 2:51 to go until halftime, and they have excellent field position once again. The Hornets in the red jerseys will start out at the 39 of FAMU. They scored just a moment ago when they started out on the Rattlers' 33-yard line. Dennis Savage with the catch. Could not shed the first guy there. Picks up a couple on the play.
You would think in this situation with the field position the way it is, that for Sean Witten may want to take a shot downfield, maybe throw one up to McBride in the end zone. See if you can't get a cheap score against FAMU and put this game out of reach.
Danielle Shepard made the tackle there. 2nd down and 8 from the 37. Trips to the left. Winton will keep it. Hauled down by Vernon Wilder. Good read by the middle linebacker, who's another one of those guys that has relatives that have worn the uniform, as we've got another penalty flag. Vernon's grandpa played for the great coach.
Personal foul, 27 of the defense, leading with the helmet. 15-yard penalty from the end of the run. First down.
Jake Gaither back in the 60s.
FAMU are just killing themselves with the penalties. Here another 15-yarder, and that's real tough when you have a team that's already starting with good field position at the 39-yard line. Then you tack on a 15-yard penalty at the end of the run. Puts Delaware State in the red zone in scoring position once again. Now we watch for McBride at the bottom of the field, number 1. He's a guy that can out-jump a defender or maybe have a jump ball or a fade route in this situation.
Sean Winton out of the gun on first down. The flip to Emmanuel Mark takes it to the 20. Dangerously close to being a forward lateral.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's halftime showcase will feature Fifth Third Bank's.
I think they were trying to run an option out of the spread formation, which can be tough.
Florida A&M University.
Didn't really have a real good pitch relationship. We talked to Coach Day, the offensive coordinator. He said they're a combination of a spread offense, a West Virginia spread, and also a West Coast offense. And Coach Al Levan was at San Francisco the times when they were winning Super Bowls, and they try to do a lot of different things with formations and personnel. Don't run the ball a whole lot. Just like to get into the running back's hand where they can make something happen.
The handoff is to Mark. Scoots left, back to the right, and hauled down by a host of defenders.
Did a whole lot of running to get 2 yards, maybe.
Once again, Tyrone McGriff making the tackle. That'll bring up 3rd down now at about 14 with just 30 seconds to go here in the half. And Delaware State apparently not in any rush yet.
I think with a 21-7 lead, they're content with maybe kicking a field goal or taking one shot downfield.
And some motion. Penalty will go against the Hornets to set them back.
All right, to the snap, false start. Offense, number 61.
If they do have to
from the line of scrimmage,
rely on their kicker, Peter Gartner is a good one, the senior from Germany. And Florida A&M, 7 penalties for 83 yards have gotten them into trouble on offense, defense, and special teams today. Delaware State will take the timeout here with 13 seconds to go. It's 3rd down, so they can take a shot at the end zone. And in all likelihood, still have enough time to attempt the field goal.
And that's something that both coaches are going to talk about at the halftime. I mean, one has 7, the other one's 5. It's been very crucial penalties. It's never a good time for a penalty, but it's really hurt both teams, the timing of these penalties. And Coach Carter, I mean, hard-nosed coach, played under Dan Reeves and also coached with Herm Edwards, who was a big influence on him also with the New York Jets. And his son, Andre Carter, was a first-round draft pick from Cal with the San Francisco 49ers, and now he's with the Washington Redskins, so a very athletic family.
Yep. And by all accounts, he has stuck to his game plan, which was to instill discipline and build trust in this program in year number 1. And now in year number 2, he has talked about better effort, better energy, and a return to prominence. This very proud program has won Division I AA national championship and 12 other black college national championships.
And the following that, they have 35 conference titles in the MEAC. So, I mean, they are a powerhouse in this conference. When you think of MEAC football, you think of FAMU. I mean, they've been around for a long time with Jake Gaither. Just a lot of good coaches and a lot of history and tradition. And even though he went to the University of Miami, he's from Fort Lauderdale. So he's familiar with the FAMU concept of tradition and what they expect out of a head coach and out of their program.
3rd and 19 now from the 26. Rattlers showing blitz off the right side. Here they come. Winton looking for McBride in the end zone. Incomplete with 7 seconds to go in the half. Good coverage that time.
Michael Creary was on the coverage, and you can see the quarterback, Winton, is able to make something happen and just throw it up to your big guy. I mean, you can see he's a tall receiver. He can go and get it, but give Creary cover and give him some credit because he's right there on the coverage, and it would have to have been a perfect throw for him to make that catch.
The place will be at the 30. We'll give him the 33-yard line, so a 43-yarder right here for Peter Gartner on its way, and just short of the crossbar.
Peter was 16 of 21 for field goals last year, which broke the school record for Delaware State. So he's a very good kicker, just a little bit out of his range, but he'll get more chances this year to make those type of kicks. With 2 seconds left in the half, the Hornets here with a 21-7 lead. Can't ask for much more in your opening game. You score twice on defense. Your running game is working. You're winning the field position battle. It's up to FAMU to try to respond coming into the 3rd and 4th quarter and get back into this ball game.
2 seconds on the clock for Albert Chester from their own 21-yard line. Check that, their 26-yard line, and they will just go ahead and let the clock run down here. And the first half is complete, and a good one for Alavan and Delaware State. 21-7, leading Florida A&M, scoring twice with their defense. A fumble recovery for a touchdown, an interception for a touchdown, and then Emmanuel Mark with the 33-yard run. And Florida A&M 14 points down as they head to the locker room at the Ford Detroit Football Classic. 21-7, Delaware State leading Florida A&M as we get set to start the 3rd quarter here in Detroit at Ford Field. A couple of defensive scoring touchdowns for Delaware State, the difference. 2 turnovers resulting in the points. The penalties also costly, Eddie, in that first half to FAMU.
Yeah, both teams had a couple more penalties than you would like, but the FAMU penalties came at a really bad time. The biggest stat in this whole equation is the 2 turnovers and, of course, the 14 points that Delaware State was able to put on the board because of those turnovers. Otherwise,
it's a 7-7 ball game, but instead a 2-touchdown advantage for the guys in the red jerseys, and Delaware State will receive and have the first crack at it offensively here in the second half. Kick is short. It'll actually roll out of bounds. A wise decision made by Eric Sewell, who initially looked like he was going to pick that up, but he let it roll out of bounds, so they will have it at the 35-yard line.
And there we talk about those penalties. I mean, keep in mind that Wesley Taylor is an All-American kicker, and to kick 2 kicks out of bounds today, I mean, that's totally unacceptable. Both times, Delaware State will get excellent field position starting at the 35-yard line.
First down.
So 1st and 10 for the Hornets. Under the direction of Vashawn Winton, the sophomore from Chicago. One of the big questions for both these clubs, they have young quarterbacks who were steeled under fire and under some tough times last year. And what would it be like the second time through? Would they rest on the laurels, or would they continue to improve?
I think what you can see is both of these guys are getting better. Year to year and week to week, I think they'll improve. They're both young guys. I mean, Vashawn Witten is only a redshirt freshman, so he'll be around a couple more years.
They have actually brought the special teams back out onto the field.
And I don't understand exactly why they would do a re-kick. I mean, from Delaware State's perspective, to get the ball at the 35-yard line from a penalty is excellent field position.
Gaddafi Tunsil on the left, Emmanuel Mark on the right, the deep men. So Taylor's kick this time will go to Tunsil back at the 6-yard line. Gaddafi gets a couple of nice blocks, and he's got some room across the 40-yard line. Across midfield and cuts it back to the inside and down to the 33-yard line of Florida A&M, and a big return by Gaddafi Tunsil. And again, Delaware State in fantastic position to start out with the football. 61 yards on the return.
And Tunsil just going across field. You don't have a lot of success on kick returns when you bring them across the field because of all the speed. But you can see, look at the Delaware State Hornets as they just pick people off and block downfield. They're doing an excellent job of staying in front of them. And it's just a lot of big blocks. There's one FAMU Rattler getting thrown to the side, and he just stays in bounds and gets all he can out of that return. Excellent job.
Third possession in a row. They're starting inside the FAMU 40-yard line. Looking for McBride. Ping-pongs around at the 11-yard line. And the catch is made by Eric Jones for Delaware State. After it looked like it hit McBride and the defensive back. And Jones with the presence to pick it out of the air.
Delaware State going for the big play right after the setup from the kickoff return. McBride looked like he had a chance to catch it. Both the receivers there, I mean, both the defenders there sandwiched him in between. Just bounced into the hand of Delaware State player once again.
Winton on the keeper, inside the 5, close to the goal line, and he's in for the touchdown. The big kick return. The friendly bounce on the pass play, and now Vashawn Winton in for the touchdown to make it 27-7.
That's only 2 minutes off the clock. I mean, if you went to the concession and get your popcorn, you missed this touchdown because Delaware State was able to get in scoring position extremely fast with the kickoff return, and like you said, the big catch.
Tremendous field position again, leads to points on the board. Gartner's extra point is good to make it 28-7. Not the start that Reuben Carter was looking for FAMU. Terrific start for Winton and company.
And when you pull up the stat sheet, the only thing you're going to see is 28-7 Delaware State on top of FAMU. However, 2 of those touchdowns are by Delaware State's defense, and the other 2 times FAMU's defense has come out on the field in terrible field position. So their defense hasn't played terrible today. It's just they've had a lot of breaks that have went against them.
Alavan talking with his quarterback. His priorities this year for the head coach: offensive consistency and productivity. He said during one of his press conferences earlier in the week, it's realistic for us to be able to score at least 1 more touchdown a game, which would boost their average up from 21 per game last year to 28 per game this year. And that's where they sit right now, and we've still got a half of football left to go.
And when your defense scores 14 points, that helps you get to that 28 points a game extremely fast.
A little bit of disbelief, I think, over there on the FAMU sidelines.
Well, if you think about how they opened up the first quarter, within the first 2 minutes of play, there was a fumble return for a touchdown. Now you come back to open up the third quarter, and it's a large return and then another touchdown off of a bobbled pass. So, I mean, it's just things are happening so fast for FAMU at this point.
boot. Kaiser will have it at the 10. Roosevelt, Kaiser, they try the reverse. Ball is down on the carpet. They fumbled the exchange, and jumping on it to save the day, Brian Parker, the freshman out of Randallstown, Maryland.
That's a very fortunate break for FAMU. I mean, excellent play call because everybody's focusing on Kaiser. They're trying to do the reverse to come back around to number 12, Donovan Johnson, and the ball just got away from both of the return men. I know Coach Carter had to take a big sigh of relief just that they were able to get the ball back in that situation. Down 28-7, you don't need a fumble on your own 10-yard line.
And for the third time in their last 4 possessions now, FAMU will start out inside their own 15-yard line. Chester going deep. Incomplete. Dropped by Willie Hayward at the 45-yard line. Kofi Amoa on the coverage. The senior from Washington, D.C. was back there.
Delaware State coming out of the box with a big, huge punt return, giving them great field position. Once again, you see a lot of guys blocking downfield. Then it's the ball off of McBride into the hands of Eric Jones, the redshirt freshman. And finally, Winton just takes it in himself from about 10 yards out. 3 plays, another touchdown. Explosive starting off the third quarter, just like they started off the first half.
Set up by the big return from Tunsil. And the pass incomplete. Intended for Derek Williams. Could not hang on.
Now FAMU, you saw them take a shot deep on the first play. Now they're getting into a situation where I'm sure they're starting to feel a little bit of a panic situation where they have to pick up the pace. You're down 28-7. I mean, you're not a passing team. They still like to run the ball and play power football. So I think at this point, you just have to try to get one score. You can't score 21 points on one drive. Just don't panic, settle down, just have one long drive and get yourself back into the ball game.
3rd and 10 from the 14. Kaiser to the top of the screen. Pass across the middle, caught at the 23-yard line. It looks to be about a yard shy of the first down.
For being one of the presenting sponsors of today's game and for being the title sponsor of last night's Comerica.
Looked like they spotted him with the first. That was number 3. I think that was Tyrone Kelly on the tackle. Good physical tackle. I thought he would have stopped him from the first down, but that's what FAMU needs. Just get first downs. Don't worry about scoring a touchdown. Just get first downs. Kelly is a guy from Renaissance High School, also a local Detroit, Michigan product, so you know he wants to have a big game today.
Well, they get the first down. They'll move the chains. And out to the 30-yard line on the handoff. Trying to work behind that big offensive line. That's Anthony Edwards on the carry.
And with FAMU having the size advantage on the offensive line, they have the power runner and Anthony Edwards and Joe Lawson, the speed guy. I'm sure they would really like to control this game from the ground first. But however, they've always been catching up. First down 14-0, now down 28-7. So they're in a situation where they almost have to pass and play catch-up football.
2nd down and 4 from their own 30. Chester on the rollout. Complete for a first down to the 35-yard line. Willie Hayward, the 6'4" junior from Miami.
Chester showing good patience. You can see it's a bootleg with a short roll. Only 5 yards, but once again, it moves the chains and gets another set of first downs. And that's all you want to do is just be patient, and they'll take a shot deep eventually with Kaiser or Willie Hayward or one of those guys. But in the meantime, you just have to keep moving down the field like they're doing.
Here is Kaiser. He's the lone wide out to the left. The handoff goes to the right, out to the 39-yard line. Edwards again on the carry. Kelly, along with Kenwan Miller, are the first 2 guys to arrive to make the tackle. Tyrone, along with Jamel Trott, one of the leaders in that secondary. They've been solid thus far in containing Kaiser, not giving up the big play.
Play action.
Chester runs away from Miller and then slides out at the 46-yard line and appears to have enough for another first down.
Chester makes good decisions. I mean, it's a play action. They're trying to take a shot deep, only a two-man route. Everybody's covered downfield. He sees the rush coming, avoids the tackler, scrambles, gets the first down. Positive play. I mean, you don't want to make a mistake or throw interception. I think you can see the maturation process from one year to the next as Chester just slowly develops and becomes a real polished quarterback.
First and 10 from the 45. A handoff and big rush from Jackie Watkins. Came busting through there to make the hit for the loss. 6'1" sophomore out of Woodbridge, Virginia, all over Edwards.
Yeah, and he's a backup middle linebacker, but they play a lot of people, and you can see the depth. A lot of these guys, these linebackers, defensive ends, they're interchangeable. Guys move all around. Hey, he gets a chance to play, he makes a tackle for loss.
Out of the shotgun with 4 receivers. Chester popped up in the air, deflected at the line of scrimmage, and falls incomplete. That'll bring up 3rd and long. We talked about the guys that both of these clubs have had to replace this year. Some significant losses due to graduation, especially on the defensive side of the ball for both these teams. When you take a look at the list of leading tacklers from a year ago, you don't see many of the names back this year.
Yeah, they're all gone. A couple of them in NFL training camps at Delaware State. Sam Smith, some real good players.
Blitz coming, picked up by FAMU. And across midfield and into Delaware State territory. Ronald Wright making the catch.
Decision time from Coach Carter. You're down 28-7. I mean, you don't want to get into a go for it on 4th down every time mode, but he's going to put in the punting unit and realizing that it's still enough time in this game for him to come back. There's no need to sell the farm on this one possession.
Delaware State does not have a man deep. They got everybody up on the line of scrimmage here.
I think they're expecting a fake or something.
Wesley Taylor does get the kickoff. Penalty flag is down. The punt bounces at the 15 and down to the 10-yard line.
And if that flag is on Dale State, it'll be a first down for FAMU, which would be a huge break.
For the old school, new school post-game concert with bands featuring Frankie Beverly with special guest performances by Jiggy and Lil Scrappy.
And it is against FAMU. So the Rattlers don't catch a break there. And now they're asking the Delaware State side if they want them to re-kick it.
With the ball at the 10-yard line, I would think Coach Levan would want to try it again and make him kick again. His return game has been solid today.
Formation, not enough men on the line of scrimmage. Number 18 was in the backfield. 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
And he just said, yep, go ahead and make them re-kick it. So they will put the special teams back out there, and they will get a deep man now. Brandon Hudson will be back at the 15-yard line. And they'll make Taylor kick it again.
Hudson has had a couple good returns himself today. I mean, Roosevelt Kaiser is the All-American returner, but Hudson is letting the conference know that he's a threat also from a punt return position.
True freshman back to receive. Delaware State will send 9 guys after the kick. Taylor gets a good one off, and Hudson with the fair catch right at the 16-yard line. 8:59 to go here in the 3rd quarter. Delaware State on top, 28-7.
Join the eye-popping revolution today. Call now.
Whenever you have a rusher like that, it just makes you that much more effective.
He was their 2nd leading rusher last year behind Rodney Roy, who graduated, and Mark stepped into the starting job. Fought off a challenge from a couple other guys who were trying to get the job, and he has looked impressive so far, including a 33-yard touchdown run in the second quarter. Thursday night, we've got high school football coming your way from the state of Illinois. ESPNU has an 8 Eastern kickoff. Mount Carmel High School and Providence Catholic. It's the Old Spice High School Showcase Thursday night at 8 Eastern on ESPNU. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. A couple of Illinois powerhouses going at it on Thursday. On the reverse to McBride across the 50, inside the 40-yard line, and corralled there. Donovan Johnson on the tackle along with Michael McMillan. Donnell Shepard also in on the stop.
When you have the running game working like that, why not do an end around to your MEAC all-conference receiver? And talking about McBride, he's from Delaware County Conference. He was the all-state basketball player in high school. So here's a guy who can do a lot, and he was a running back also. Just moving to wide receiver in college, so he's still learning the position.
Emmanuel Mark gaping hole up the middle inside the 20-yard line and out near the 10. D. Jamal Kirby, Travis Pierce, Nick Richmond, Jeremy Breath, Derek Upchurch, that big front line opening up a huge hole. 29 yards on the pickup by Emmanuel Mark.
And all the things Al Levan told us yesterday, it did not emphasize a running game. He just wanted to be an effective running game, something that can, you know, make a play here or there. He did not expect for Emmanuel Mark to come out here and have this type of running day. Last year he had 50 carries for 171 rushing yards, and I'm sure he's close to 100 yards already today. Very effective running game by Delaware State.
Donovan Johnson was the guy that chased him out of bounds. And just when we give those big O linemen a little love, the penalty flag is out. We had some movement.
Prior to the snap, false start. Number 70 of the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains
That's
first
one
down.
of their captains, Derek Upchurch.
I tell you, the guys up front today for Delaware State are doing an excellent job. I mean, I can't really think of a time where Vashawn Witten has really been pressured or had any type of people in his face when he's throwing the ball. And then from a running game standpoint, I mean, Emmanuel Mark, some of the holes that he's been running through, he's been untouched for the first 10 yards. He's doing a lot on his own, but the guys up front are having a very effective day moving the FAMU Rattlers around and creating some running lanes for their running backs.
And set him back 5 yards now to the 17. Pile up as the ball may have come loose on the exchange. Winton able to hang on to it.
Oh, he never really had it, tried to pull out too fast. I think that was a case where Nick Richmond, the center, was just so anxious to get that first block. He snapped it and started moving at the same time, and Winton just never had control of it. Very fortunate for Delaware State because they're in the red zone now. You don't want a turnover in this situation.
2nd and 16 from the 18-yard line. Delaware State in red trying to add to their lead. Winton gives it off to the fullback Shrewsbury. And he's inside the 15, lumbering for about 4 yards on the gain. It'll bring up 3rd and long.
And that's what happens when the running game is working. The guys up front, Pierce, Richmond, Breath, Upchurch, Kirby, all those guys are blocking well. All of a sudden, the fullback gets a couple carries. He's had 2 carries today, and this is from a team that say, hey, we don't like to run the ball too much. We just want to use the running game effectively here and there as a distraction for the pass. But now you have Shrewsbury, big 6', 220 pounds, gets a couple carries. And you always like to see the fullback, you know, get a carry here or there. They always blocking, don't get a lot of glory, but you know, those guys are important parts of the offense also.
He's ecstatic. He didn't get any carries last year. He's got 2 today. Mark stumbles forward to the 15. And the Hornets, it appears, content to bring out the field goal unit here and give Peter Gartner a go at it.
I think after the fumble, Al Levan is being a little conservative. He's not going to lose the ball inside the red zone, realizing that he has a 21-point lead. And he can put this field goal up, it'll be up to 24, and that'll be very hard for FAMU to come back here as you get late to the third quarter.
Place will be at the 22-yard line, so a 32-yard attempt from Gartner. Kick on its way. And it is good. Peter Gartner tacks on 3 more. They're scoring with their special teams, their defense, their offense. They are in control right now.
Catch the great ACC rivalry that always seems to carry national title implications. ESPN Full Circle, Florida State, Miami, Monday at 8.
31-7, Delaware State thumping Florida A&M at the Ford Detroit Football Classic. 5:39 to go here in the third quarter. Roosevelt Kaiser back deep, looking to try and get something going here for FAMU.
Yeah, FAMU needs a spark, and Kaiser is definitely the guy that can give them one. But right now, they're down by 24 points late in the third quarter. They have to make something happen on this drive. They can't wait much longer.
And Delaware State will not give Kaiser the chance. Bowen, one of the up guys, has it across the 30-yard line. But Peter Gartner directed that one away from Kaiser. And now the FAMU offense under the direction of Albert Chester back out there.
Now Chester and the FAMU offense, they have a very good spread offense. I mean, they have more than just Kaiser. They have other receivers, Ronald Wright, Willie Hayward, who we saw earlier today. They have a lot of guys who they can get the ball to, so it'll be interesting to see at what point do they abandon the run and just open this up into a full 4-wide offense.
They've got 4 wides out there right now with Edwards in the backfield. Chester has some time, goes to Kaiser. Little shake and bake across the 35 out to the 37-yard line. Pickup of about 5 on the play. The numbers for Chester, the junior quarterback, and Winton, the sophomore, both about the same in terms of yardage. Winton rushed for a touchdown, and Chester's only interception, the pickoff, was returned for a touchdown.
Well, I think Chester's passing numbers are about to really improve because they're down by 24 points. So out of necessity, they're going to have to start throwing the ball. But both of these guys have managed the game well. I mean, no glaring numbers, but they're still young quarterbacks. They're not expected to come in here and throw for 200 and 300 yards. They just want to go through the game, not make mistakes, and take opportunities when you have them.
We did see them as the completion is made to Kaiser out close to midfield. They dealt with some adversity earlier in the game pretty well after giving up the 2 quick touchdowns. They sustained a long drive to score to make the game 14-7, but were not able to build on that momentum.
Yeah, the field position in the special teams has also hurt FAMU. Every time their defense comes on the field, it's like Delaware State is starting on their own side of the ball.
Pass tipped and falls incomplete. That was Josh Pope, the redshirt freshman out of Philadelphia. He redshirted as a quarterback, by the way, and they moved him over to the defensive side of the ball, and he earned the starting job to replace Sam Smith, their All-American.
He's doing a good job. He's the one who had the pressure on Chester that caused the interception return for the touchdown that Russell Reeves was able to pick off.
That's a guy that was recruited by the likes of Penn State, Syracuse, and Georgia Tech before deciding on Delaware State. Chester across the middle behind the intended receiver, Derek Williams. Jamel Trott thought he had his 5th interception in 3 games against FAMU. He's already got 4 of them over the course of the last 2 seasons against the Rattlers.
He's a preseason all-MEAC player, and he always seems to come up with his biggest games against FAMU. Coach Kramer describes him as just a natural football player. He does a lot off the field also. He's in the student government and Black Engineers of America fraternity. So he's one of those guys that just needs to concentrate a little bit more on football. It's good to have the all-arounded guy who wants to do everything on campus, but you have to realize you're on the football scholarship sometimes.
running for president can wait. Wouldn't be surprised to see Trot in that mix in another 20 or 30 years. Very intelligent young man. Penalty flag on the punt. All kinds of contact in the backfield.
Flag down on the play.
We have to diagnose this because
Fans, please stop by
the ball did hit the ground before he kicked it.
Daryl Davis discussing things with his officiating crew. There was definitely contact with the kicker. But they're debating what happened before that and now where they're going to bring the ball.
Illegally kicking the ball against the kicking team. Penalty is 5 yards from the spot of the foul. Loss of down. First down.
Oh, kicked it off the turf without even picking it up there.
Exactly. So illegal kicking of the ball.
And they lose the down. So Delaware State will have it with excellent field position when we come back, and a big lead for the Hornets. Back here at the Ford Detroit Football Classic, Delaware State 31-7.
And right here you see that Wesley Taylor drops the ball and he kicks it from off of the turf, which was consequently an illegal kick. And that is a change of possession play. So instead of letting FAMU re-kick, Delaware State got the ball on FAMU's 32-yard line, just as good as a turnover.
And this is the 4th time they've started inside the 40-yard line of FAMU. They've already gotten 10 points from their first 3 trips. Nice tackle made by Jason Beach, the sophomore from Pensacola, on Emmanuel Mark, who's over 100 yards rushing today.
And Al Levan has to be almost like a prophet, because what he told us last night, they came out and executed perfectly. Contained Kaiser #7, kicked the ball well, get a running game, which they didn't have last year. They wanted to win the field position battle, which they were dominating, and they got some big plays on offense. So all of his bullet points, he's pretty much scratched them all off today.
Winton eludes the rush. Nice juke move at the 33 and gets close to the 30-yard line. Good scramble that time by Winton.
And it's Coach Day, the offensive coordinator for Delaware State, and Al Levan. Both of them talk about Winton as an extremely smart player. They say sometimes he's too analytical. He'll come back and give you 5 different things that he saw in the play, and you're like, you didn't see all of that, and you watch the film, and he really did. And Coach said he wants him to take more chances. How many times do you tell your quarterback to take more chances, try to make a play, or just, you know? And I think you look at his stats, and it's not pretty, it's not elaborate, but he does things like that. Nobody's open downfield. He'll pull the ball down, get you into a 3rd and 8 situation, something that's manageable, as opposed to taking a sack and you're in the 3rd and 15 or 20. So those are things that aren't on the stat sheet, but it's still big plays by the quarterback.
Yeah, Coach Levan used the word daring.
5-yard penalty, remains 3rd down.
Bashan Winton that time not analytical enough to look at the play clock. It's a delay of game, but nonetheless, very interesting to hear him use the term daring and to just go out there and be a little more instinctual and just play the game. And we've seen some of that today out of Bashan Winton, who has the potential to be a tremendous quarterback here at Delaware State. So now 3rd down and 14 through the air. Catch is made by McBride. Terrific second effort to pick up the first down as he gets to the 20. 16 yards on the reception for Shahir McBride. And the junior continues to move up the all-time receptions list and is now tied with NFL great John Taylor. Number 5 all time.
And what you really have to like about him, look at the yards after contact. Man, that's number 10 McGriff. He's a big guy. He's their All-American defensive end, and he's running through those arm tackles. And Michael McMillan, another guy who had a shot at him, he knows how to break tackles and get down the field.
Emmanuel Mark up the middle. Picks up a couple on the play to the 18. Shahir McBride, just a junior, so if he stays healthy, he should have no problem climbing to the top. He's already tied with John Taylor.
He may get to the top of that list by Halloween. I don't know how many more how many more games they have in the next couple weeks, but at the pace that he's going, and for Sean Witten, naturally that's his favorite receiver. I mean, the guy is talented. No reason not to keep feeding him the ball. Great work ethic. Coach Levine compares it to the work ethic of a Jerry Rice, a legendary guy who works really hard. I mean, this guy can be a really good player at this level and the next.
Out of Chester, Pennsylvania. The pump fake from Winton, now going to run with it to the 12-yard line on the scramble. We'll bring up 3rd and short. Well, log on to ESPNU.com, the brand new online service, a gateway to all college sports content from ESPN, combining the latest news, scores, columns, video and audio highlights, podcasts, live streaming of games, and much more. Log on to ESPNU.com today, your online home for college sports. 5 yards on the pickup, so it's 3rd and a couple. And Delaware State will let the clock wind down, and it's time to move on to the 4th quarter at the Ford Detroit Football Classic. And Delaware State all over FAMU, 31-7.
Join the eye-popping revolution today. Call now.
ESPNU's college football from Ford Field in Detroit for the Ford Detroit Football Classic. Florida A&M in white, Delaware State in red. Beth Mowens along with Eddie Robinson Jr. A couple of defensive touchdowns for the Hornets in the first quarter. They jumped on top early, and they have not looked back. Solid performance by Emmanuel Mark, the tailback, who is deep in the eye right now, over 100 yards rushing. McBride, the motion man, on 3rd and 2. And Mark is hit behind the line of scrimmage. Tried to bull his way to the 10, which is right around the mark he needed to get to. Carlos Roll, one of the guys defensively down on the bottom of the pile, the junior from Tallahassee. 13 carries, 117 yards. He's got a touchdown.
Emmanuel Mark is having the coming out party today. Keep in mind, this guy had only 50 carries all of last year for 171 rushing yards. So I don't know if they expected to get a 100-yard day out of him on his first start.
We're going to go for it on 4th and short, and Mark to the 9-yard line, and looks like he's got it. They will give him the first down, so 1st and goal here, just underway in the 4th quarter, and Delaware State looking to add to its lead.
With a 31-7 lead, Coach Al Levine is trying to put the nail in the coffin, as they would say. To get up and score another touchdown here would be very demoralizing for the FAMU defense. I mean, everything isn't their fault. I mean, they've had 2 touchdowns scored by the Delaware State defense in bad field position all day. They've played real hard, but the bottom line is the score is still 31-7.
We talked about the significance of this game for these two teams. Only the first game of the year, but it is a conference game, and these two were picked in a tie for 3rd place in the preseason coaches poll in the MEAC behind Hampton and South Carolina State. So a leg up for the winner of this one, and it appears at this point to be Delaware State, and they have both Hampton and South Carolina State at home this year later on the schedule, and what could shape up to be a big breakthrough season for the Hornets if they can build off of the effort here so far today.
Keep in mind, Hampton is the defending champ from the last 2 years in the conference, but Delaware State beat them at home in 2004. That was their only in-conference loss. So they've played with the big teams. They've beaten the Bethune-Cookman. So Delaware State is at a point in Al Levine's young coaching tenure where they think that they can move up and compete with the big guys. And this is a very impressive showing today if they do hold on and continue and win this game.
The officials have figured out whatever the problem was down there, and we're ready to go. First and goal. Emmanuel Mark on the carry. Ball pop loose down at the 1-yard line. Squirted out, and FAMU's got it. Donnell Shepard, number 27, on the recovery as Mark trying to reach forward for the goal line.
His only mistake of the day. I mean, he was trying to get the extra yards, being a tough guy, sticking his head in there, going low, and some kind of way it just pops out. Great presence of mind by the FAMU defenders. Donovan Johnson, I think it was, and number 28, Jason Beach, was able to pull that ball out. If he would have scored that touchdown. So that's great job by FAMU keeping themselves into this game. Down 31-7, you need some type of break, or you have to make a play and make a break. And you can see on the sideline, Emmanuel Mark looked like he may be banged up a little bit after that play.
Perhaps the turning point that the Rattlers were looking for here. Now they've got a long way to go, down 31-7, but they prevent the touchdown. And now Emmanuel Mark looks like he may be cramping up down there on the sideline.
Yeah, I think that is a cramp. When you rush for 171 yards all year long, and you have over 100 today, 115, 117, I think you have the right to cramp up in the first game. And unfortunate that he had that fumble there. I mean, but he's been having an excellent game all day long.
He's been working today. Now second down and about 8. Chester, play action.
Take a shot.
Going for it all, and out of bounds. Willie Hayward trying to sell it to the officials, but they're not buying it. 3rd and long coming up.
Good play action. Backed up, you have to get the pass out, and I think the pressure caused him to lead him a little bit outside, and that guy, that big white stripe, never misses a tackle. Even if you catch it and out of bounds, he always gets you. So.
Terrific effort there, though, by Hayward to try and keep the feet in. 6'4", he's got long reach. This time they will give the ball. The draw play up the middle. And the punting unit will have to come on. Wesley Taylor will try and boot this out of his own end zone here.
Well, the punting unit isn't coming on, but I'm pretty sure that coach is going to punt in this situation. And here they come late. You feel the pressure to try to do something, but backed up down here, you don't really have much of a choice. You just have to play the game out and hope you get another opportunity later in the ball game.
On 4th down, Taylor from his own end zone.
Brandon Hudson has had a couple of big returns already for Delaware State. Let's see what he can do with the punter backed up.
He's back at the 45-yard line. Good kick by Taylor. Chases him all the way back into Delaware State territory. Looking to make a move. Gets a nice block and is around the edge on the left side and then lost the football. And luckily for Delaware State, it takes a bounce out of bounds.
Well, luckily for FAMU that he lost it, because he may have scored if he doesn't lose this football. It looked like it just popped out.
31-7. Big block right there, and then the ball's gonna squirt loose. Whoop! Delaware State's got him. 31-7, Delaware State with the lead over Florida A&M at the Ford Detroit Football Classic at Ford Field. Over the last 5 years, these are the MEAC champions, with Hampton, the 2-time defending champs. Florida A&M's last conference title was 2001. It's been 15 years since the Hornets last won the title. And Hampton, by the way, in that showdown between the top 2 ranked teams in the Black College football poll, they beat Grambling today in overtime by a point. As we see Emmanuel Mark, the starting tailback. That's there's a bunch of Delaware State Hornets actually down, getting tended to.
A lot of times the teams, they play indoors, so you have the assumption that it's going to be nice and cool and no problem, but you can still have humidity problems inside. And you can't have a tendency to cramp. And keep in mind, this is their first, live action, no preseason games in college. So this is their first time going into the third and fourth quarter, playing 50 and 60 plays.
Emmanuel Mark is back on his feet over on the sideline. It's just Adam Shrewsbury now, the lone setback in the backfield with Winton. And he will get the carry for the third time today, and he rumbles inside the 35-yard line. The battle of the field position, by the way, continues to go to Delaware State. This is the 6th time in their last 7 possessions they are starting inside the FAMU 40-yard line. As we see, Emmanuel Mark now has the helmet back on. Look at the difference. He's the man this year. He's the #1 guy. Over 100 yards rushing today.
A junior college transfer from Hudson Valley Junior College, and really starting to develop and mature. I mean, he's a senior now and knows what this game is about and what is expected of him. He should have a great year.
On the give to the backup tailback inside the 10-yard line. Phil Morgan, the sophomore from Brielle, New Jersey. 33 yards on the run, and it's 1st and goal, Hornets.
He is quick. That's what you call fresh legs. He's been sitting on the sideline the whole time stretching, and the FAMU defense is tired and worn down. They're on play number 65. He's on play number 1. And look how much faster he looks than everybody else. I mean, he's just making people miss out there.
And Emmanuel Mark says, thanks a lot, little buddy. My cramps are feeling a lot better right now. I'm going to head back out on the field, and he's in the backfield here on 1st and goal from the 5.
Well, he doesn't want to leave his glove on the mound. After that type of run, you better get out there and get your job back.
Picked up a couple on the carry off that left side. This may be the developing story of the week for Delaware State when they go home and take a look back at what's happened today and the emergence of Emmanuel Mark for a team that was the worst rushing team in the MEAC a year ago. If they get the run game to go along with Winton to McBride through the air, they might just be able to nip at the heels of Hampton and South Carolina State when they come to town. Mark up the middle, shy of the goal line.
Now, FAMU does have a lot of new players on defense, but they've always had a good competitive defense. So, I mean, they're not beating up on the shabby team here. Yeah, 14 points were scored by their defense, but you have to really applaud their effort in their running game today. And the efficiency of Winton not making any mistakes, pulling the ball down. He actually has a rushing score also. So Delaware State offense is looking extremely good, and they've always had a good defense.
Under 9 minutes now to go in the game. Winton trying to dive forward for the goal line. And the whistle had blown before the ball popped loose, and he did not get in. Well, I think that would be the good news that FAMU can take home. Hey, our biggest mistakes of the day are correctable. There's stuff that we did to ourselves with the early turnovers and then the penalties, particularly during the kicking game, which allowed Delaware State to establish such good field position, which led to the scores in the second half for the most part.
Yeah, I think FAMU, they'll be okay. I mean, they'll settle down and bounce back. They lost to Delaware State last year at home to open up the season. And keep in mind, this is only Coach Carter's second year. And last year they started off 6-5. He was only hired in July. This was his first year able to go out and get a recruiting class. And I think he recruited every guy but one, maybe like 25 guys he signed from the state of Florida. He's a local product out of Fort Lauderdale, went to University of Miami. So he'll get this program turned around and they'll start competing for MEAC championships. It's without a doubt. He's the right guy for the job. And it's just a building process. Year by year, you have new experiences with young players.
And a gutsy stand there by the defense to hold Delaware State out of the end zone. So Gartner will come on for the chip shot field goal here.
A lot of toughness when you're down 31-7 and the team is trying to stuff another run down your throat. I've been in that situation before. You know, it's tough. It's just a matter of pride at this point. You're late in the fourth quarter, and you know they're just going to keep running the ball unless you stop them.
And Delaware State, I believe here, will just go ahead and take the penalty so that Gartner will have a better angle to make this field goal. Move him back a little bit away from those uprights.
Coach Levan has to be smiling inside. I'm sure he's ecstatic about this performance. And they're going to be a contender in the MEAC championship for 2006. I mean, South Carolina State, Bethune-Cookman, Hampton, those schools better be prepared for the Hornets this year.
This will be a 23-yard attempt from Gartner. Right down the middle. 34-7. Delaware State over Florida A&M here at Ford Field. Back here at Ford Field in Detroit for the Ford Detroit Football Classic. 34-7. Delaware State enjoying the fruits of their labor today as they have been all over Florida A&M. Solid performance in all three aspects of the game. They've scored with their defensive unit. They've found a running game with Emmanuel Mark, and their special teams has been solid as well. And they will give Roosevelt Kaiser an opportunity here. The All-America candidate wants to be a punt returner in the NFL someday. Returns that one 21 yards. The senior out of Fort Lauderdale.
Roosevelt Kaiser.
There may have been some questions coming in. How good could this Delaware State defense be? Could they match the efforts of last year when they were top 10 in the nation in sacks, tackles for loss, total defense, pass defense? Well, they have made a statement here today with this performance against FAMU that they had the opportunity to be as good. I like the line from Andre Kramer, the defensive coordinator, yesterday. He says, we lack experience, but we don't lack effort. And they have put forth the effort, and they're getting game day experience here today.
His biggest concern coming into the game was that they made a lot of silly mistakes in the early spring scrimmages and in the fall scrimmages, just out of enthusiasm, just trying to do too good from what how he described it.
Amazing what winning can do for your entire program. The attitude change that has occurred in Dover since the arrival of Al Levan. Remember, they were 1-10 before he came to town. 3 wins better in 2004. 3 wins better again last year. Good for a third-place finish in the MEAC and their first winning record in 5 years. And his challenge to his team: keep the momentum going, keep pushing forward.
The thing is, I don't think they're really scared of the big schools. They've beaten the Bethune-Cookmans. They've beaten the Hamptons at home, and Hampton to go down to Delaware State again this year, which would be a huge game looking down the line. And I mean, they have a lot of good young players. I mean, their defense is only going to get better. Their biggest concern was, you know, young guys making mistakes in this type of game. But he's saying from an athletic ability standpoint, he really loves his young guys. He feels like they're so much better than last year just from personnel.
Chester with the handoff to Anthony Edwards. Dives forward, has enough for the first down across midfield and into Delaware State territory.
That's Jackie Watkins, who's a backup inside linebacker, but he's been on there, and I think he had a tip pass earlier. He's playing a lot today. Stuffing the run, tackling those FAMU Rattlers, and keeping everybody lined up in the correct spaces.
1st and 10. Chester will work out of the shotgun. And we'll hand it off to Edwards. He barrels down to the 40-yard line. From the collegiate game this weekend to high school football in Illinois on Thursday, it's the Old Spice High School Showcase at 8 Eastern, Mount Carmel and Providence Catholic. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Couple of traditional powers that are vying for the state championship in Illinois year in and year out. Chester's pass incomplete, intended for Willie Hayward.
The Detroit Ranks NAACP and Reverend Wendell Anthony, president, hosts the 98th
FAMU, looking at next week, has the Miami Hurricanes. And when you're down 34-7 on your opening game in Detroit, that's a tough way to have to bounce back. But I have a lot of faith in Coach Carter. I mean, looked at him last year. They saw them guys play a couple times. They won that big game at the end of the year, the Florida Classic against Bethune-Cookman. And these guys are contenders. They're fighters. They won't give up this year.
That'll be Coach Carter going up against his alma mater, where he was an All-American offensive lineman at the University of Miami.
Yeah, a lot of good storylines. And of course, he was the first African-American All-American down there. He had a great career, 12 years in the NFL. And coached with Herm Edwards with the Jets, a lot of other different places. Played under Dan Reeves, 2 Super Bowls. So when you bring that type of credibility to a program, the players have a tendency to believe what you're telling them, you know, because of all his accomplishments as a player and as a coach.
1st and 10 for the Rattlers. Big opening and solid contact from Edwards, trying to roll through Ryan Robinson. 13 yards on the pickup.
I like what FAMU is doing. I mean, they're just running their offense. They realize that the score is down. You would like to, you know, come back and try to win the game, but just have get some confidence going into next week. Have Edwards, a big downhill running guy. Let him run the plays that he can run and effectively try to get some points on the board.
Getting close to celebration time over on that Delaware State sideline with 4.5 minutes to go. Over 200 yards rushing. That's double their output per game from a year ago. 2 scores on the ground. Florida A&M has rushed for 160 yards. And the rushing touchdown as well from Edwards, a 5-yard run. He's got their only score today. Chester looking for Kaiser. Stretched out for it, but incomplete. Jeremy Bianduti on the coverage. 5th-year senior out of St. Petersburg, Florida.
The 4th Detroit Football Classic, like to thank
Delaware State's defense has been solid also. I mean, covering Kaiser, they knew that would be their biggest test. I mean, he's caught some sharp passes here and there, but he hasn't had the game-changing plays, the 50 and 60-yard runs that he's capable of.
The numbers on the 2 guys we spotlighted at the beginning of the program, both held out of the end zone, but McBride getting much more help from his mates today on the scoreboard.
And that was my guy, the hitman, Reeves, Russell Reeves, and he tried to take Chester's head off just now. I mean, that's one thing that Coach Kramer said, that these guys like to run and hit. He really put a lot of emphasis on running to the football. They're all good defenses. You have to run to the football no matter what the situation or the time in the game, whether you're up or down. And these guys are going to play this game out. They have pride. They don't want to let FAMU score another touchdown on them.
13th play of this drive for FAMU. On 4th down, Chester across the middle, caught inside the 5, and enough for the 1st down. Completes that one to Ronald Wright.
Chester hanging in the pocket, gets a little happy feet early, but lets the receiver come across, and no coverage by Delaware State in the middle of the defense, and able to get a 1st down and goal at the 5.
So 1st and goal for FAMU. Kaiser is the man in motion. And whistles.
Prior to the snap,
Timeout taken by Delaware State.
Delaware State had 12 people on the field, so that was a good timeout on their behalf. Trying to substitute in and out late in the game, playing some different players is always tough, especially the first ball game of the year.
2 minutes and 54 seconds left in the 4th quarter.
34-7 Delaware State. Under 3 minutes to go. Here's how they finished up in the MEAC in 2005. Hampton undefeated. They won their 2nd consecutive title. Delaware State at 6-2, a game ahead of Florida A&M. And now the challenge for these 2 programs is to leap over South Carolina State and Hampton for the MEAC championship.
And Hampton has been to the 1AA playoffs the last couple of years. South Carolina State always seems to come up a game short, even though they lose to Hampton. Well, the last 2 years they've lost to Hampton. They have also a non-conference loss. So I know the MEAC, a lot of the fans of the MEAC want to get 2 schools into the 1AA playoffs. And South Carolina State has always been that 2nd school that's been closer to make it. But now with Delaware State kind of stepping up, and Bethune-Cookman has always had a solid team. It'll be a real interesting race in the MEAC this year. I don't think Hampton will just run away with it. They'll have to really earn their championship if they win it a 3rd consecutive year.
Emmanuel Mark with 129 yards rushing today. Winton trying to push his way into the end zone. I have to harken back to something that we witnessed during warm-ups that was prophetic today that involved Emmanuel Mark. He was running through some of his warm-up drills, and Ernest Williams, the FAMU defender, and the rest of the FAMU players came running around the outside of the field, and Mark and Williams collided, and Mark got the better of that, and Williams was sent sprawling, and the two exchanged some words. And well, that's kind of the way the game was played out as well. Delaware State made the big hits early and sent FAMU sprawling. Rattlers trying to get on the board here late. The cutback and into the end zone for the touchdown. Second of the day for Anthony Edwards. A 16-play, 73-yard drive.
Once again, they come with the power back inside the 5-yard line. He just stretches the defense and takes it north and south. And a day like this one is hard. You're down 34-7. At least you're building something for next week. This is only the first game of the year. It's a lot more football in 2006 for the FAMU Rattlers. So you just want to have a good, positive drive, and that's what that was. Just a confidence builder going into next week and going into the rest of the season.
Penalty flag thrown on the play here with 2:20 to go.
Substitution infraction on the defense. 12 men on the field, half the distance, and still a try.
I think both coaches are going to have a talk on Monday about the penalties in this game. Even though it's the first game of the year, a lot of sloppiness that can be corrected. Those type of things will cost you ball games going down the stretch.
I also had an illegal substitution penalty declined. So Wesley Taylor to attempt the extra point here. That kick is good. 34-14 Delaware State. When we come back, a special guest, Robert Porsche, South Carolina State grad and former Detroit Lion, will join us. Back here, third football classic. Delaware State and Florida A&M. 34-14. The Hornets with the lead over the Rattlers here at Ford Field. 2:20 to play in the fourth quarter, and we've got a special guest now joining Eddie and myself, Robert Porsche, who played collegiately in the MEAC and then here in Detroit with the Lions. And some of your thoughts on the action that you've seen and how good the MEAC can be this year.
I think the MEAC is a great conference. I enjoyed playing there back in the early 90s. And Florida A&M and Delaware State was always two of our big rivals at South Carolina State. But Hampton University and South Carolina State for the last few years have always been kind of, you know, right there vying for the title. So it's good to have these two MEAC schools, and it's good to have them here at the Detroit Football Classic. And this is the first year we're actually having a conference game. We usually have a SWAC school playing a MEAC school. So I'm excited about the MEAC conference meeting.
That's really big. I mean, I know that the SWAC MEAC challenge is going on in Birmingham. You're a different venue here. First couple years at Alabama State, going and back at it. And now you have two MEAC schools. Is that more important because it's your conference and the conference you played in and all the good things you've done here in the city of Detroit and in the conference for the MEAC?
No, our business model is to have a SWAC school against a MEAC school, but it just lined up that we really wanted Florida A&M back here in Michigan. The people here really love the Rattlers, and having Mayor Kilpatrick, who's an alum of Florida A&M, really helps in what we're trying to do here. So this is just the way it worked out, but ideally we'd like to have a SWAC MEAC matchup.
Now you're a recent retiree from the NFL. I've been out of the game a couple more years than you. Do you ever miss it? I mean, 95.5 career sacks, 14 years with the Lions. You want to get back out there and compete sometimes?
Absolutely not. I get a headache, Eddie, if I even think about putting a helmet on. But my son started playing this year. He's starting at 8 years of age, so all my folks and energy is really kind of going into him and trying to help him realize how tough it is to play football.
Optimism high on the hopes of the Detroit Lions this year?
Yeah, it is. We have Rod Marinelli, who's a new coach coming in from Tampa, so expectations are really high. We have not had a really good preseason, but again, you know, it's the preseason, but we have not had a winning season here in the last 6 years. I think that's a record in the NFL. That's something you don't want to be known for, eh?
No, you don't. But, I mean, we talked a little bit about this last night. We talked about Mayor Kilpatrick. Of course, he's in his second term. I mean, you're like the mayor of Detroit. You've been around here 14 years. You have a house here. You have businesses here and restaurants and everything. I mean, what's in the future?
I think of myself as one of Mayor Kilpatrick's foot soldiers.
Okay.
So being in a lot of meetings with him and just seeing the job and the work and the time that goes into what he's doing, that's not a job that I want.
So he wouldn't pass the baton on to you? Okay.
I would not accept that baton.
Robert Porcher from South Carolina State and the Detroit Lions as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations to and special thanks to the whole city of Detroit. They've been terrific all weekend.
Thank you guys for coming. We're really excited about having you guys here, and we got a post-game concert that's coming up, so a lot of our guests here are really excited about that.
ESPNU's college football from Ford Field, Robert Porcher, our special guest here. FAMU and Delaware State, a 20-point lead for the Hornets as they will try and put the finishing touches on a big conference win to start out the season. Couple of defensive touchdowns in that first quarter. And then Emmanuel Mark establishing the run game, doing a nice job. And the field position really helped out. The early turnovers they created helped out Al Levan getting the win over Reuben Carter's troops. 34-14 the final.
And I think going into the next game, I mean, Delaware State has a lot to build on, especially with that running game, and very impressive victory. And I think they're going to compete for this MEAC championship this year, with Emmanuel Mark having a coming out party and the rushing attempts that he's done. Excellent job by Delaware State, and FAMU, don't count them out. They'll still win some games this year. They'll be a good team.
34-14 the final. Delaware State a winner over Florida A&M here at the Ford Detroit Football Classic from Ford Field. An impressive all-around performance. Got started with the defense scoring a couple of touchdowns, and then the running game and Emmanuel Mark getting it done. And Delaware State looking very impressive here in their season opener. They go 1-0 in the MEAC. Florida A&M 0-1. Up next, it's Sports Center U. For more information, log on to your new home for the finest in college sports, ESPNU.com. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Eddie Robinson Jr., our entire ESPNU crew, I'm Beth Mowens. So long from Ford Field in Detroit.